The United States Supreme Court, with its 9 justices, is the nation's final legal authority, shaping American life and liberty. In a time of deep political divides, the court often appears split, with narrow rulings that mirror societal disagreements. But when the court issues a unanimous 9-0 decision, it sends a message of clarity and unity, a legal principle so fundamental that all justices, regardless of ideology, agree. Such rulings carry immense weight, reaffirming that some rights and standards are beyond political debate. On June 5, 2025, the court delivered just such a decision, unanimously defending religious freedom in Catholic Charities Bureau versus Wisconsin Labor and Industry Review Commission. This rare unanimity underscores the enduring importance of religious liberty, reminding us that some principles are not up for negotiation. The case began with a dispute over what counts as religious ministry. For decades, religious groups like Catholic Charities Bureau were exempt from state unemployment taxes, recognizing their faith-driven missions. Wisconsin officials challenged this, arguing that because Catholic Charities served everyone and hired non-Catholics, its work wasn't religious enough for the exemption. This forced the charity to choose between its mission of universal service and its religious identity. A classic catch-22. Catholic Charities, represented by Beckett, argued that their charitable work is inseparable from their faith and that the government cannot dictate how a religious group practices. The First Amendment, they insisted, protects a religious body's right to define and live out its mission. The legal battle reached the Supreme Court, setting the stage for a landmark ruling on religious freedom. The First Amendment guarantees religious freedom through the Establishment and Free Exercise clauses. These clauses protect both belief and action, ensuring people can live out their faith without government interference. The Free Exercise clause was central to the Catholic Charities case, safeguarding not just worship, but acts of service as religious expression. Forcing a group to choose between its mission and a government benefit burdens religious exercise and penalizes faith. The Establishment Clause also bars the government from favoring one religious model over another. In Wisconsin, officials tried to rank religious practices, favoring inward-focused groups over those serving the public. The First Amendment was designed to prevent such theological judgments by the state. It ensures all faith-based acts of service, whether from a synagogue, mosque, temple, or church, are protected expressions of religion. On June 5, 2025, the Supreme Court delivered a landmark decision that would shape the future of religious liberty in America. In a unanimous ruling, the justices firmly rejected Wisconsin's attempt to judge the religiousness of Catholic Charities' work, sending a powerful message about the limits of government authority over faith-based organizations. The case had drawn national attention, with advocates on both sides awaiting the outcome that would clarify the relationship between government and religion. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, writing for the court, declared that governments cannot create litmus tests for faith or penalize groups for serving all people, regardless of their background or beliefs. Her opinion emphasized that the Constitution protects not only the right to believe, but also the right to act on those beliefs through service and outreach. The court found that how a religious group expresses its faith, whether through worship, education, or acts of charity, is a matter for the group itself to determine, not for the state to regulate or second-guess. This principle, the justices explained, is essential to preserving the diversity and vibrancy of religious life in America. Penalizing Catholic Charities for its inclusive service was deemed a clear and direct violation of the First Amendment's guarantee of religious freedom. The court underscored that the government cannot punish organizations simply because their faith inspires them to serve everyone, not just members of their own tradition. The ruling set a bright-line rule: governments cannot deny benefits or impose penalties based on subjective assessments of a group's religious character or the way it practices its faith. This clear standard will guide courts and lawmakers for years to come. This precedent protects the full spectrum of religious expression in America, ensuring that legal protections do not depend on government-approved models of faith. It affirms that all faith communities, regardless of their traditions or methods, are entitled to equal respect and protection under the law. The decision affirms that compassion, service, and outreach are core religious practices, not grounds for exclusion or suspicion. By recognizing the importance of these acts, the court reinforced the idea that faith is lived out in service to others. With a unanimous voice, the Supreme Court made clear, The government is not qualified to be a theologian, nor should it attempt to define or limit the ways in which faith is expressed in public life. This decision stands as a powerful affirmation of religious liberty for all. The Supreme Court's ruling extends far beyond Catholic charities, shielding every faith-based group in America. The 9-0 decision ensures the government cannot discriminate based on how a group practices its faith, protecting churches, mosques, synagogues, temples, and more. Previously, groups serving the broader public risked losing exemptions. Now, their acts of service are protected religious expressions. This is especially vital for smaller or less mainstream faiths, which are often misunderstood by officials. The decision guarantees these groups can define their own missions and serve as their conscience dictates. Religious freedom is affirmed as a fundamental right, not a government-granted privilege. The ruling protects the integrity of thousands of faith-based hospitals, schools, and charities that serve millions. By barring religious litmus tests, the court has ensured these groups can continue their vital work for all. Despite the Supreme Court's clear and unanimous 9-0 ruling in favor of religious liberty, Wisconsin officials have continued to resist full compliance with the decision. Their actions have left many observers questioning the state's commitment to upholding the highest court's authority and have sparked a heated debate about the limits of state power versus federal mandates. Instead of simply granting Catholic charities the exemption it was entitled to, the state took a surprising and controversial step. Wisconsin officials petitioned their own Supreme Court, not just to deny Catholic charities, but to eliminate the religious exemption for all faith-based organizations in the state. This move has been widely interpreted as an attempt to sidestep the Supreme Court's ruling by changing the rules for everyone. This, "if we can't discriminate, then no one gets protection" approach would effectively strip away long-standing legal safeguards from every religious organization in Wisconsin. The implications are far-reaching, threatening the ability of faith-based groups to operate according to their beliefs and serve their communities without government interference. Legal experts and advocates across the country have condemned Wisconsin's actions, calling them a direct challenge to both the Supreme Court's authority and the Constitution itself. Many argue that this defiance undermines the very foundation of the rule of law and sets a dangerous precedent for other states. The Wisconsin Supreme Court now faces a critical decision. As the legal battle drags on, the justices' eventual ruling will not only determine the fate of religious exemptions in Wisconsin, but also send a powerful message about the state's respect for federal authority and constitutional rights. This ongoing conflict highlights a sobering reality. Even a unanimous Supreme Court victory does not always guarantee immediate or willing compliance from state officials. The legal process can be slow and contentious, leaving affected organizations in limbo and raising broader questions about the enforcement of constitutional protections. The struggle unfolding in Wisconsin underscores the persistence, vigilance, and determination required to defend constitutional rights in the face of government resistance. It is a reminder that the fight for religious liberty and the rule of law is ongoing and demands constant attention. As the nation watches closely, the outcome in Wisconsin's courts will reveal whether state officials will ultimately honor the Supreme Court's mandate or choose to undermine religious liberty for all, setting a precedent that could echo far beyond state lines. The Catholic Charities case is just one of several major constitutional questions before the Supreme Court in 2025. Recently, the court heard arguments on President Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping tariffs. The case tests whether the president can use emergency powers to set tariffs, a power traditionally reserved for Congress. Justices from both sides questioned the administration's broad interpretation of executive authority. Some explored legal justifications, but skepticism was clear. The outcome could force the government to refund billions and redefine presidential power in economic policy. The court is tackling fundamental questions about the balance of power, just as it did with religious liberty. The Supreme Court's unanimous decision in Catholic Charities Bureau versus Wisconsin stands as a landmark moment for religious freedom and the principle of equal treatment under the law. This case, watched closely by legal experts and faith communities alike, has set a powerful precedent that will shape the relationship between government and religious organizations for years to come. By barring the government from judging a group's religiousness, the court has fortified the rights of all faith-based organizations, regardless of their size, denomination, or the specific beliefs they hold. This means that no government agency can single out or scrutinize a group's faith identity as a basis for regulation or exclusion. The ruling protects thousands of charities, hospitals, and schools from discriminatory regulation or unfair taxation. These organizations, which often provide essential services to the most vulnerable members of society, can now operate with greater confidence that their missions will not be hindered by government overreach. It allows religious groups to serve all people, regardless of background, belief, or circumstance, without fear of penalty for their inclusive compassion. This decision ensures that acts of charity and service, inspired by faith, are recognized as valuable contributions to the broader community. The 9-0 decision sends a powerful signal to the nation. Religious liberty is not just a tradition, but a core American value, protected for all people and all faiths. It reaffirms that unity and diversity can coexist at the heart of our legal system. The ruling warns governments at every level against creating hierarchies of faith or discriminating against certain expressions of belief. It makes clear that the Constitution does not permit favoritism or prejudice when it comes to religious practice. Ultimately, it affirms that service to others, whether through feeding the hungry, educating children, or caring for the sick, can be a profound act of faith, not a reason for exclusion or suspicion. The decision encourages people of all faiths to continue their good works without hesitation. The Catholic Charities decision will be remembered as a crucial moment for the First Amendment and religious life in America, ensuring that the freedom to serve and believe remains protected for generations to come.